Tonight, on a Nation Sports Show, we break down the latest news in the world of sports. Now that the NFL season is over, the off-season is just beginning. In a couple of weeks, free agency will begin. Starting now, the franchise tag can be applied to star key players to remain on their respective ball clubs. The Cincinnati Bengals have franchise tagged one of their star receivers, Tee Higgins. Also tonight, we break down the latest news and action in the NBA. This past Friday, there was a brawl between Miami and New Orleans that led to multiple players being suspended. Also tonight, we break down the wild finish from last night at Madison Square Garden between the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. We also bring to you the latest breaking news in the world of baseball and so much more. It's showtime. Good up to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. You wanted the best. You got the best when it comes to covering the world of sports, because that's why our Nation Sports Show is live right now on YouTube.com right here. Same time, same channel, same day. Happy Tuesday, everybody. What is going on? I am your host for this evening, sitting in the big boy chair, Stephen Wyand. And before I get to my fine co-host for this evening, we got to quote-unquote pay the bills real quick, folks. Up first on the social media platforms on the old Twitter machine at @ON_sports show. Both Facebook and YouTube.com/The Nation Sports Show. That's where we are live right now on YouTube. And also we are on Instagram at ON Sports Show. And also don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook at Nation's Corner, and on the old YouTube at The Nation's Corner. And don't forget to check out the Nation's Corner this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time, as we will keep you guys in the loop on who will be hosting this week, as Deb and John will be at a independent wrestling show. Athletic All-Star Wrestling will be live this weekend, and that should be a lot of fun. And speaking of a lot of fun, we have an action-packed show for you here tonight. And before we get to all of the happenings in the world of sports, I have to introduce my co-host for this evening, and unfortunately, Ezra and Kevin could not be here this week. And Kev, we're praying for you, man, and pulling for you, hoping your health is getting better every day, and hope to have you back on the show here soon. And Ezra will be back with us next week. And joining me tonight, he is one of my favorite brothers from another mother. He is a Washington Commanders fan, he's an Atlanta Braves fan, and he's an all-around good dude. JT Joey Thornton, what's going on, man?
What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing Tuesday. And I'm rocking a very famous WWE shirt from back in the early 2010s, early 2011. Basically, if you want him, you're either with us, or you're either next to us, or you're against us. So that's right, baby. I'm here chilling. Ready for another action-packed week of sports talk with my bro Stephen Wyand here. So without further ado, let's get to it. Yeah.
Let's get down to the bottom of it right now. And man, we got to start with the NBA because last night that was one of the most craziest, insane finishes to any NBA game in quite some time. And well, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard about what's going on, there was a crazy game last night at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, the mecca of all sports, with the New York Knicks taking on the Detroit Pistons in one of the most insane games to take place in the NBA and at Madison Square Garden in quite some time, highlighted by the controversial non-foul call at the end of the game. I mean, Jalen Brunson went for a three, missed it, and just a mad scramble ensues. And the Knicks, let's be honest, should have been called for a foul. And that would have given the Pistons the ball. And unfortunately, the referees made a unforced error, and it was a very bad error. And even as a blind man, even I could see the stupidity in the referee officiating last night. Because how do you miss that? It's right clear as day as the light shines in your face. That was one of the most egregious, horrible calls that was not non-foul calls in NBA history. I mean, Joey, you saw the highlights of this, and what were your thoughts about this game last night? Because it was madness last night in New York City.
You know, as bad of a season as the Detroit Pistons have had this year, may I remind you, in case you are living under that rock, the Detroit Pistons earlier this year had a 28-game losing streak. But yeah, as bad a season as they've had so far, even I have to agree with Coach Monty Williams, Troy, that was the most absolute BS of a no call I have ever seen in my entire life, at least up to that moment. Because the proof, the evidence, it was right there on the court. He tackled that player trying to recover that loose ball. You don't do that in basketball. Because that's what football, but not in basketball. And I mean, I just don't know what to say about it. I mean, Coach Monty Williams is absolutely right when he said that should have been an easy call, and even the referees themselves were saying after the game that they should have called that. So, I mean, why didn't you, referees? Oh, because that's right. The referees have ruined the sports that we've all come to know and love over the past several years. Well, I mean, they've pretty much ruined the game of football. They've ruined the game of baseball a long time ago, and now they're ruining the game of basketball with last night. Please, these referees need to step it up.
I mean, let's
time.
be honest, Joey. I mean, the officiating in the NBA for 20 plus years has had its ups and downs, and it's been very bad in the last couple of years. And ref ball reared its ugly head last night. Like, this has got to stop. Like, this is ruining the game of basketball. What's a foul? What's not a foul? Just like in the NFL, what's a catch? What's not a catch? What's pass interference? What's not pass interference? Like, the referees, it's like they're playing their own game. I mean, the Knicks were 19-9 heading into the game last night, pushed that record to 20-9 at Madison Square Garden, 35-23 on the season last night after the win. And Jalen Brunson is their star player, but nobody's talking about the 35 points that Jalen Brunson had last night. Nobody's talking about Hart, who had 23 points. Nobody's talking about Quentin last night having that game last night. 14 points in the fourth quarter. Nobody's talking about Cade Cunningham, who had 32 points for the Pistons. I mean, it is a shame. The officiating has gotten so bad in the NBA. And even though the Pistons are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference at 8-49, gotta hand it to them, man. Even after having a 28-game losing streak, they're still battling. They're still scratching. They're still clawing. They're still actually playing games. They're not, tanking. They're actually trying because of Monty Williams.
It all goes back to what I just said, man. Referees, they're just ruining the game of sports. And like you said, Steven, the fact that the officiating for, it doesn't matter what sport it is, it has just really, really fallen off over the years. I mean, I can name some famous no calls right now. I'll give you one example for each sport. Well, you already know the example from basketball, the no call from last night's game. All right, baseball. Let's see, I can't remember what year it was, but it was just recently. There was a pitcher who was in a perfect game. Then the top of the ninth inning, I think there was like 1 out or something, so he was only 2 outs away from a perfect game. Batter hits a ground ball. He feels it, or the pitcher feels it, throws it to first. The runner's out by a mile, but the umpire calls him safe. And of course, in football, the fact blow after call, and they even mess up the no calls when they call them when it should have been a no call. I mean, referee.
Joey, I think your connection is inconsistent right now. So I completely hear what you're saying. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the NBA and across all the sports, I mean, and his connection dropped just like the Cowboys and the playoff chances for a lot of these teams did in the last year. But I get what Joey's saying, because when you look at what's happening in the NBA and across all fourth North American sports, and by the way, what's going on, William? How you doing, good sir? How you doing, man? But yeah, I get what Joey is saying, because, just how horrible the officiating has been across all sports. I mean, there's been times in baseball where they call a guy safe and he's clearly out. And then there's times where a guy is called out when he was clearly safe at the bag. And then in the NFL, I mean, the pass interferences that have been called that were very bad calls, the roughing the passers that have been called, over the years. I mean, it's gotten really bad, with the officiating across a lot of the sports. And I get what Joey was trying to say before his internet dropped, but the entire fandom of sports that we love, it's still there. But when the officials get in the way, like, at the end of the day, if there's a great football game, if there's a great baseball game, if there's a great basketball game, nobody is going to be talking about the performances that these players had on the court, on the diamond, on the rink, on the gridiron. Nobody's going to be talking about that stuff. They're going to be talking about the god-awful officiating that happened that cost a team a victory. And last night, the Detroit Pistons, battling, scrapping, and clawing, a back and forth affair with the Knicks. And like I said, a great performance. And he is back. A great performance by Jalen Brunson last night, who had 35 points, and Josh Hart had 23 points. What's going on, Joey?
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet decided it wanted to go out on my laptop, but I'm back.
I know you're good, but I was just reiterating, what you were saying, basically, that when you look at all of the the fourth North American sports, how there over the years there have been times where a great baseball game, a football game, basketball game, and I got what you were saying before your internet, decided to drop for a second. You were saying that the officials, when these bad calls happen, nobody, you were giving your examples, and I'll let you get back to that, but I know what you were trying to say, because when these officials make these bad calls, like when it rears its ugly head, nobody talks about the great game. All they talk about is the bad officiating.
Yeah, they do.
Now you were in the middle of your baseball point about a bad call that happened before your connection dropped. Go ahead.
So yeah, what I was saying is there was a pitcher. Can't remember how many years ago it was, but it wasn't that long ago. But he was pitching a perfect game. He was in the top of the ninth with one out.
Yep.
Batter comes up, hits a ground ball, throws it to first. The runner is out by a few feet, but the umpire still calls him safe. And that manager absolutely lost his mind, and so did all the fans, and so did all the rest of the players. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, officiating has been so bad over the past number of years. I mean, take what happened earlier in the NBA season when head coach Mike Brown was debating a bad call that eventually got him talking. Mike Lear, I mean, he was in the right, because that foul should not have been called on that Sacramento Kings player.
Right.
So, I mean, this officiating is just horrible. And yeah, I tend to talk about the bad officiating and not the good games as of late. But officiating is something that, of course, is required. I get that. Because without it, sports would be just absolute total freaking chaos. So
okay, Joey, real quick to point out what William said here in the chat. It's Armando Galarraga. That's the pitcher you're trying to think of.
That's it. Thank you, William. Thank you. I cannot think of the player's name for nothing, but thank you, William. I appreciate that, sir. But yes, I mean, I get it that officiating
He had two outs in the ninth inning.
That's it. It was 2 outs. Yep, 2 outs in the top of the ninth. And I can't remember who the umpire was that called him safe, but I'm sure William can probably find that for us.
And let me get you that date.
But yeah, I mean, officiating is just horrible right now. So I don't know if they're just adopting new rules or something, or like a new officiating policy. I mean, I just don't know. I really don't.
Here you go, real quick. Just add to the stats real quick. Galarraga had faced 28 batters and threw 88 pitches. Let's see. 3-0 victory. Let's see, 88 pitches.
June 2nd, 2010.
67 strikes and 21 balls.
Yep, June 2nd, 2010, the Detroit Tigers against the Cleveland Indians, and it was umpire Jim Joyce. Yes.
Yep. And the fact that Galarraga showed just a huge amounts of class, even after the bad call, that ruined his perfect game. Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And think about that time, the Tigers were loaded that year in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel Cabrera and all those great pitchers, Verlander. Good
They
stuff. Good.
loaded.
But what were some other examples that you can think of across all the sports?
Uh, trying to
Oh man, you're cutting out again. But yeah, your internet is it's like Charles Barkley would say. Let me tell you something. Your internet connection today, it is absolute terrible. It is just it's terrible. It's terrible. I don't even know what to say, man. Your connection's like the Cowboys offense in the playoffs. But but yeah, and there he goes again. His internet just dropped again. Oh my goodness. This is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you are live. Anything can happen. I mean, my goodness gracious. I mean, Joey's internet connection has had just as many drops in one night, just as the Kansas City Chiefs receivers did last year in the regular season. But at least when it matters most, the Chiefs did show up and play consistent ball. And Joey's internet connection, for the most part, is consistent. But tonight, no dice. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, yeah, last night, like I was saying, Brunson had 35 points and Hart had 23. And for the Pistons, Cunningham had 32. And there he is. He's back.
Yes, once again. So let's hope it comes back around this time.
Yeah, hopefully comes back around like the Chiefs offense did in the playoffs.
Oh no, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I'm in one of those moods tonight there, buddy. But anyways,
all right, Ezra.
So what? Yeah, somebody's got to do it. Might as well be me. But anyways, so while your internet decided to pull a no show for a couple of minutes again, can you think of any more bad officiated calls in the NFL, the NBA, etc., or even baseball?
I think. I mean, I will say that the officiating has gotten some stuff right, but
Yes.
it hasn't happened very often. So,
yeah, the
I don't know.
officiating has gotten stuff right at times, and then there's times like last night it reared its ugly head. I mean, it was bad. And when you look at the Pistons, I mean, this is one of the most competitive teams that has the worst record in any conference. I mean, 8-49 they dropped to last night. And Monty Williams last night, this is why I love him as a coach. Because Monty Williams last night showed why he cares. It doesn't matter if his team is at the bottom of the barrel looking up today, at the bottom of the barrel today. And for you hate breed fans out there that got that reference, thank you very much. Just the simple fact that Monty Williams last night walked into that locker room full of piss and vinegar, and he had ice water in his veins, and he was not happy, and he went off on a 1+ minute rant, and he called this the most egregious call in quite some time. And all we want, and I'm just paraphrasing what Williams said during his 1 minute plus rant, talking about how all they want is a fair called game. And when you have referees getting themselves involved like this last night, it ruins the integrity of the game.
And I could agree to that 1,000%.
And also in the NBA, on Friday, there was a brawl that took place. No, it was not a Super Smash Brothers brawl, but it was a brawl between the Miami Heat and the New Orleans Pelicans. And 5 players were ejected from the game. Unbelievable. Now, I don't have the list right in front of me, but Joey, do you have those players? Um, I know Jimmy Butler was suspended.
Yeah, if you'll give me just a second.
But yeah, that was crazy on Friday because we haven't seen a brawl like that in quite some time. Like that, it didn't get to the Knicks and Nuggets brawl, of '06 or the Pistons and the Pacers from 20 years ago in the Malice at the Palace. It didn't get that bad, but it still got bad to the point where they had 5 players get ejected.
All right, let me see.
Crazy, 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 crazy. I mean,
Okay, so it was 4 players that got
4
ejected.
players.
It was four players. It was, of course, Jimmy Butler,
Yep.
Heat center Thomas Bryant,
Yeah,
and
and
Jose
just to,
Alvarado. Yeah, and Jose Alvarado and Najee Marshall from the Pelicans.
And also to add that Bryant was not even in the game when this happened.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? I understand you're trying to take up for your teammates, but you can't do that. You cannot do that because if you step foot on the court, that is an automatic suspension. You cannot do that at all. Because I'm pretty sure you recall this, Joey, but that infamous in the playoffs, the San Antonio Spurs and the Phoenix Suns from 2007, when Amari Stoudemire and
Oh.
Boris Diaw were
Oh,
suspended
yes.
from 2007 during the Western Conference semifinals. That pivotal game 3 or the game 4 that they were suspended for, I believe it was. That was a critical game, or no, it was game 5. Game 5, I believe.
I completely forgot about that absolute brawl.
Or no, wait, was it? Trying to remember, was it game? I can't remember what game. It was either game 3, game 4, game 5. But either way, it was crazy. Like Tony Parker and Steve Nash, nose to nose, literally. I mean, everybody was just it was nuts. Robert Ory body slamming Steve Nash, and just it was crazy. And that's one of the last worst fights that I can remember in the NBA. And now, and again, like the officials have to do a better job at knowing when to step in and stop this stuff. And also, they got to do better at calling the games. They have to do a better job at calling the games. And there goes Joey's internet for the 3rd time again. Wow. Incredible, folks. Incredible. I mean, when you look at what happened on Friday with this brawl, this was unnecessary. This did not need to happen. It is just crazy. I mean, you got to keep your cool, And Joey's back again. There he is.
I swear, I don't know what is going on. And
I have no idea. This is crazy.
but anyways, I found the players that were suspended from the Spurs and Phoenix Suns game.
Yep.
Let's see. It was during Game 4 of the Western
Game
Conference
4.
semis. So
Okay.
yes, and it was, of course, Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw from the Suns, and then it was Robert Ory from the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep. That was the last fight to my recollection. That was the last worst fight in my opinion in the NBA because it got bad. And
Oh, what? I just thought of another example. Give me just a second. I'll see if I can find it real quick.
all right, but yeah, just talking about what happened on Friday, like you got to keep your cool, in situations like that. Like you cannot do that. And Jimmy Butler's making fun of him getting, ejected and stuff. Dude, come on. Like you're supposed to represent the NBA.
Yes. Yes, I found it.
Did you find good?
Hey, Steven, see if you remember this brawl. This was actually before the San Antonio Spurs, but 6'2" 2006, the
Your connection again. Come
can you
on.
hear me now?
Oh, gotcha. What was it again?
But yeah,
What was the
Madison,
game?
December December 16th, 2006, the
Oh,
Knicks and the Nuggets brawl.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that very well.
Yeah, do you
Carmelo
remember
and
that one?
yes. Carmelo Anthony cold cocked Collins, knocked him to the floor. Like just it was crazy. Like you could hear a right
Yeah,
hand thrown by Carmelo Anthony, and you could hear it echo off the garden. Like it was that loud. It was that loud. It was that thunderous. And obviously Melo was suspended during 06, 07 season for I think it was like 15 games. Yeah, that's pretty bad to be getting suspended for 15 games. Now, fortunately for the guys and the Pelicans players and the Heat players that were suspended, they were not suspended for a long term because it didn't get to that level. But it got to the level where they had to be thrown out and suspended. So yeah, it's crazy. This is crazy, man. But we're gonna keep rolling, and um, in the NBA, the season's had a lot of interesting stories because the Knicks are one of the brightest teams in the Eastern Conference, and the Celtics are obviously rolling. And there's Joey again. Connecting, connecting, connecting.
All right, so my laptop wants to be stupid, so I'm going to do this from my phone tonight.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yep, it's being
But
stupid, so I'm just going to do this from my phone tonight.
But I definitely remember that Knicks and Nuggets brawl from 2006. Like Collins got cold caught by Carmelo, just knocked to the ground, right hand thrown by Anthony, and you could hear the echo off the building.
I mean, literally, all 10 players that were playing on the court at that time all got ejected.
Yep.
I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, like when you think about some of the past brawls in the NBA, I mean, the Pacers and the Pistons and the Nuggets and the Knicks and the Spurs and the Suns in the playoffs. I mean, those are the three ones that come into my mind as very significant, and so and it's like I was saying before your internet dropped again and before you came back. I was saying the fortunate thing for the Pelicans and the Heat players is that the players that were suspended, they were not suspended for a long term because it did not reach that level of physical activity as far as contact and stuff. So yeah, like I was saying with the NBA, like it's crazy. Like when you look at all the stories that's happening, like the Knicks are still doing good and the Celtics are doing good. And then in the West, who would have thought that you would have the Timberwolves being at the top of the Western Conference?
I'm telling you this, but once again, regardless of who is in the playoff hunt right now for the Western Conference, the Western Conference has proven once again that they are the top rated division in NBA right now because of the fact that everybody that's in the playoffs right now has a winning record, unlike the Eastern Conference. But
Yep,
then again, that's how it's been for the past several years.
that's right. And the West has been one of the more dominant conferences in any sports, especially with the NBA. Like when you look at the dominance with the Spurs and the Lakers and um, the Warriors and the Mavericks and with Dirk and them all those years. I mean, just the Suns and with Steve Nash and Mario early on, and the Jazz in the 90s, the Rockets in the 90s. I mean, just the West has always been one of the more dominant conferences in the NBA, period.
Period.
And the Knicks, it's a good story, for them. Despite the controversy last night, Jalen Brunson has proven why he is one of the best players, and you know the Dallas Mavericks are kicking themselves for letting him go.
Yep.
And the Knicks, they got a good roster. They got a very good roster. Now, as far as Monty Williams last night goes, and we touched upon it briefly, when he went off on his rant last night, you know, and I agree with all of the reporters out there and the commentators and stuff. Monty Williams should not be fined.
No, he should not.
Because he was expressing legitimate gripes with the officiating last night. Like, again, it's like I said at the top of the hour. That call was so bad, even me being a blind guy, even I saw how bad that call was. You got to call that foul. It's right there in front of you. I mean, Thompson had clear possession of the ball. You got to call that foul. You have to call that because he had legitimate hands on the ball and a legit possession on the ball.
Yes, he did.
And we could keep going on and on and on about this. And, and talking about, you talked about it too, when you look at the officiating across the board, I mean, when I think of the NFL, I think of some of the roughing the passer calls that have been called, especially the fouls that were called when Tom Brady was still in the league, especially with Tampa Bay. I mean, that roughing the passer that was called on Atlanta, that was garbage. Some of the roughing the passer calls that have been called, again, when, while Mahomes has been quarterbacking. Some of the roughing the passer calls that have been called when Aaron Rodgers has been, quarterbacking for the Packers when he was there the last couple of years. The officials let the offenses get away with a lot.
Yeah, people just can't see it.
Exactly. But we can. We can see right through it.
No, we sure as hell can.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the NFL, as we all know, the free agency season is coming up in a couple weeks as the offseason kicks into high gear. And as of now, the franchise tag can be applied to NFL players that are free agents. And one of those players has been franchise tagged already, and that is Cincinnati Bengals tagging one of their key weapons on offense, wide receiver and great receiver, Tee Higgins.
Interesting.
And if you can't come to a deal, the best thing you can do is franchise tag him, and I think they made the right move to keep him, for at least another year. Because as we all know, when Joe Burrow gets healthy, he is the engine that lets that Cincinnati Bengals offense go. And Tee Higgins' numbers, although they were pretty good last year, they significantly dropped off because Joe Burrow was obviously out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you look at the free agents that are out there on the board, Joey, I mean, you got Chris Jones, you got Kirk Cousins, you got Mike Evans, you got defensive end Josh Allen. No, not the quarterback. When you look at, and also Saquon Barkley, for the Giants, those are just some of the players that come to my mind, that are key pieces. For also L'Jarius Sneed for the Chiefs. That just popped in my head. I mean,
yeah.
that's two.
And you also begin some other high-profile names like Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys.
That's right.
Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly one of the most biggest names of them all, Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans.
Yes, Derrick Henry, the king. Yes. And it will be interesting to see going forward what happens in the offseason. And even though the season may be over, the offseason, folks, is just as important because this determined on who goes to respective ball clubs. And when you look at, the free agents that are on the market, I mean, Joey, if I'm being like Lance Storm once said, if I could be serious for a minute, if I'm any of these free agents, you have to keep these. Now, honestly, I think the Chiefs are in a good prime position to keep Jones and Snead, but I honestly, truly think that, well, for one, Saquon Barkley is going to be let go by the Giants. Why? Because they're dumb. They don't know what the hell they're doing. You pay Danny Dimes that kind of a stupid contract, watch. They're going to let Saquon Barkley walk. And somebody will pick him up.
And that will, yeah. If Saquon Barkley hits the free agent market, I'll give him a couple days before he gets signed by another team because there are plenty of teams out there that could use a running back who is as durable and as tough as Saquon Barkley is.
Exactly.
Yes, and there are a bunch of big names down here. I'm looking at the top 101 NFL free agents right now, and I'm just gonna read off just a few.
Ezra, what's going on, man?
What up, Ezra?
Ezra's in the chat. What's going on, brother?
But yeah, I'm just gonna read off some of these big names real quick. Let's see. Antoine Winfield from the Bucks.
Oh, that's a good one. He had a hell of a year last year with Tampa Bay.
Ryan Burns from the Carolina Panthers.
Even though he's on a shitty organization, he still can go to a good team.
Come on, Steven. Why are you gonna say that about your favorite team?
Bollocks. Garbage. Next.
Oh, here's a big one. Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins.
Ooh, yep.
Let's see. Yeah, there's Mike Evans.
Yep. Tampa, that's an interesting one because Mike Evans last year, his season was pretty solid with the Buccaneers. And if I'm the Bucks, I'm throwing anything and everything to keep him because if you let him be a free agent, you know the Chiefs, you know the Bills, you know even the Bengals, even the Dolphins are going to go after him.
Oh, yeah. Let's say Patrick Queen from the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh, they cannot lose him. He was a key ingredient to their success last season and why they were the best team in the AFC during the regular season.
Oh, man. Gabe Davis from the Buffalo Bills.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, man. Dude, if they lose him, dude, that's going to be a huge loss for the Bills because let's be honest, he stretches the field for Buffalo.
Oh, no. If the Eagles let this guy walk, they are pathetic.
Here's a guy.
Fletcher Cox.
Ooh, star defensive player. Cannot.
If they let him walk, they are stupid.
Oh, yeah. And he's a veteran. And if he goes to any great team, he's going to take the veteran salary, to not take up a lot of cap space on a roster and stuff.
Let's say Devin White from the Buccaneers is also on this list.
Oh, man.
Let's see Jeremy Chin from the Panthers. Let's see.
Obviously, Kirk Cousins is on that list.
Willie Gay Jr. from the Chiefs.
Yep, they can't afford to lose him.
Oh, I forgot about this, dude. Austin Eckler from the Chargers.
Oh, that's a big one. That's definitely a big one. Because remember last year, Joey, Austin Eckler had that dispute with the Chargers during the season wanting, more money.
Yes, he did.
And it will be interesting to see if he rejoins the Los Angeles Chargers, considering this will be Jim Harbaugh's first year back as a head coach in the National Football League.
Yeah, but I would get into that, but that's a whole nother story for a whole different day.
Yeah, we'll be here for another an hour talking about that.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
But yeah, there's a lot of names. There's a lot of names on that list that are key pieces to teams going forward and teams going backwards. And Derrick Henry, to me, is the biggest name on this list because he has been the motor that has kept that Titans offense running when they've been struggling. And Derrick Henry is a star player that needs to be paid. If any running back needs to be paid, it's the king, Derrick Henry, because it doesn't matter who his quarterback is. I could be the quarterback. Ezra could be the quarterback. Kevin could be the quarterback. You could be the quarterback. Randy could be the quarterback. Hell,
even Sprocket could be the quarterback.
exactly. Even Sprocket can be the quarterback of the Titans. And the Titans have to reevaluate themselves because Derrick Henry is a huge piece to the puzzle that makes that Titans offense go. And if they let him walk and he's not going to be signed, come free agent time and he's on the market, somebody will pick him up quickly.
Somebody.
Now, as far as that list is concerned, Joey, when it comes to the running backs, I mean, you got Barkley, you got, like you said, Jacobs, you got Derrick Henry, who I've just talked about. Where do you see possibly Henry, Barkley, and Jacobs going this upcoming season? Or do they somehow stay with their own ball clubs?
Well, when it comes to Saquon Barkley, I just got one thing to say in regards to the Giants organization. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And this is one of those scenarios. The Giants front office, that organization, that ownership, those coaches, they have had not one, but two prime opportunities to sign Saquon Barkley to a long-term deal, knowing that he has been their best offensive player production-wise over the past 2 years. But no, they decide to use the itty-bitty little franchise tag on him last year.
How about no?
And pay Danny freaking Dimes all that money when he ain't even worth 2 cents of it.
Nah, he ain't worth the money they paid him.
I understand the quarterback is the most popular position, the most needed spot on an NFL roster. But at the same time, if your running back or your if your running back is putting up better numbers, actually getting y'all points on the board, then maybe you need to look more towards the running back and try to find a decent quarterback to help pick up the slack a little bit. Because it seems like the roles are being reversed in New York. Apparently, this front office is thinking that Danny Dimes freaking Jones is the one giving everybody the big yardage, whereas Saquon Barkley is picking up the scraps. No, that's not the case at all. So I hope Saquon Barkley goes elsewhere. And let's see, I'm trying to think of a decent team. Let me see.
Well, to add to that, Jelly, about the Giants, as far as Danny Dimes, if he goes elsewhere, like the song goes, he ain't worth missing.
No. Oh boy.
What's up?
I had just thought of the perfect possible landing spot for Saquon Barkley.
What you got? What you got?
All right, so this is a team that, of course, he won't have to go far. They are pretty much one shy or one legitimate player away from really making a deep run in the playoffs. And a team that has a quarterback that could really put up some pretty good numbers as long as he has, of course, receivers to help him out and a great running back who can also catch passes out of the backfield. The one team that could really use Saquon Barkley is an AFC powerhouse, the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Imagine imagine them getting a player like Saquon Barkley. Holy cow. Can you say deep playoff run?
Could you
Because
imagine
because they
to add?
definitely because they definitely have the defense to do so. Definitely.
Oh, real quick, William says here in the chat, he says, I hate the franchise tag. He says he hates the franchise tag because it feels like it punishes the players for wanting more money. That is true.
That is true.
It definitely punishes the key players for wanting more money, especially, wait for it, drum roll, please, the running backs.
Yes.
Because, hello, the running back is a key position to the offense. Go ahead. You were saying?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if Saquon Barkley were to go to Buffalo, but you know what? Any running back that's on the free agent market could be picked up by Buffalo. I mean, we can see Derrick Henry go up there. We can see Josh Jacobs go up there. We can see Austin Eckler go up there. You never know. You just never know who
Mm-hmm.
might who might can go up there. And both and see and all those running backs would be absolutely perfect for Buffalo. Absolutely perfect.
You know, you could look at Barkley, you could look at Henry, and you could look at Jacobs. Either one of those backs could go to Buffalo. Either one. And now, although I would say that Buffalo's running game last year was definitely better, they got to feature it even more, early on, unlike when they did later on in the year, because later on in the year, they finally got it going. And that's why they were so successful last year. And Cook had a great second half of the year with the Bills last year. So look for him next year, James Cook, to be a predominant piece to the offense to Buffalo next year.
Oh yeah.
And when you look at Mike Evans, he to me is the key receiver that is in this bunch. I mean, sure, you got Michael Pittman, for the Colts, who's also there. He's a pretty solid weapon, but Mike Evans to me, Mike Evans is the key receiving threat that is in this free agency bracket so far that could go elsewhere. Because if the Bucks don't sign him, Philadelphia could get him, the Chiefs could get him, the Bills could get him, the Cowboys could try to go get him on a low contract.
Hey,
Um,
even the Commanders could try to get him since we have the highest cap space available.
they do. That's a great point. Great, and I add that to this too, Joey. What if the Commanders get Derrick Henry? What if they get Saquon Barkley, the Giants' arch nemesis? What if they get Josh Jacobs? Or what if they get both, 2 out of 3 of any of these running backs? Because the Commanders have a hell of a lot of cap space to do some damage in the offseason.
I mean, honestly, I could see it, but then again, I don't. I'm not saying that we couldn't use a running back like a Derrick Henry or a Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley, but
Sure.
I am liking what Washington has in their run game right now, utilizing Antonio Gibson as a pass catcher and a third down running back, and using Brian Robinson as the lead running back. I do
Mm-hmm.
like that. I do like that, and it would not surprise me if we stick with those two running backs and possibly try to get one later in the draft come April. But I'm not ruling out a possible signing between Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, or Saquon Barkley. I'm not. I mean, I'm not ruling it out because it's the world of football, and the one rule of football is anything can happen at any given time.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And when the offseason kicks into high gear, folks, you never know what's going to happen. because come free agency period, when that starts in a couple weeks in March, and it's
March
hard to believe.
13th.
Yep, March the 13th. We're just that close, folks. Free agency is just around the corner. And even though, like I said, even though the season is over, the off-season fun shenanigans is just beginning, folks. And before we move on, folks, again, you can follow us on Twitter at @ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Our Nation Sports Show, and where we are live right now on YouTube.com/Our Nation Sports Show. Don't forget to like, share, hit that subscribe button, and check out all of our videos of our past live streams that we've done over the last several months and years, and our great interviews that we've had with Lance Meadow. And we're going to try to get Lance Meadow back on the show here sometime soon to recap the NFL season. And obviously come later on this year to preview the upcoming 24-25 NFL season. And just before you know it, that'll be here as well, because as we all know, time flies by. And also don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, and also on the YouTube at the Nation's Corner. And don't forget to check out the Nation's Corner this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And please stay tuned to the Nation's Corner Twitter machine, as we will be keeping you updated on who will be hosting the show this week. As like I said at the top of the hour, Deb and John will be going to a All-Atlantic Wrestling show this weekend. That should be a lot of fun. Hope they have a lot of good times this weekend with some people in the crew. And it's also crazy that WrestleMania is approaching too. Crazy. Man, it's a great
9
time.
days away, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
39 days away.
Yep, it is. And I know, look, I know we're a sport.
Up on the card.
Yep. Yeah, but I know we're a sports show primarily, but I had to talk about this. And we talked about it briefly before we came live. But last night, that ending segment with Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes was unbelievable.
Oh, yes.
Paul Heyman had me popping when he's like, they really aren't security guards. I was like, wow. It was great. It was great. And Cody was like, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn whose number you got. If it's a bloodline setup, bring it on. I'm right here. He's had enough. And I love this anger. This anger from Cody. Like, it's like another gear has been turned.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the fact that Cody Rhodes is, I know it's been a year, or literally almost a year, but I'm telling you what, WWE is planting the seeds for Cody Rhodes to finally finish his story at WrestleMania 40. They are planting seeds.
They are, but and I thought about this too. That's the last thing that WWE needs is a riot on their hands, because you can't go into WrestleMania 40 with and you Pantera fans will get this reference, a fucking hostile crowd in Philadelphia to absolutely turn on the finish of that, because that's the last thing you need is a complete hostile environment in Philadelphia destroying things, because that's the last thing we need fans doing is rioting, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. Like I said on the Nation's Corner a couple weeks ago, I don't know what they're going to do, but all I know is I'm along for the ride, because WWE right now has hit this high and it just keeps growing, and they're selling out everywhere they go.
Yes, they are. Tickets are flying fast.
They are. And obviously back in the fall when Mania 40's tickets went on sale, over 90,000 tickets were sold. Unbelievable.
Absolutely unbelievable.
The numbers that the WWE is fixing to set for WrestleMania weekend. And also, we don't even know who's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, because they haven't even started naming the class yet, which I'm kind of surprised they haven't.
I know. I am very surprised. I mean, there are noticeable names that could go in, like Tommy Dreamer, who'd be in the heart and soul of ECW. I mean, that's a name that definitely comes to my mind. And
another name that comes to mind is a name that they've been talking about for quite some time, ever since his very, very, very unexpected passing back in August. The one and only Mr. Bray Wyatt.
And I think Bray Wyatt rightly deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. Because I think even though his career in the WWE was short-lived, he left a Hall of Fame resume on the table, and he left memories that will live on in our hearts for years to come.
Yes, he did. I mean, he was a 2-time world champion. He was a tag team champion. And he just, I mean, the fact that everybody was behind him, his so-called fireflies that he was calling whenever he was first coming around to WWE, the fact that when he won his first world title inside Elimination Chamber, the ovation that he got, just the fact that he was finally able to climb that mountaintop. I mean, it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Real quick, thank you, William, for tuning in. See you next week. See you next week, guys. See you next week, William. Thank you, Ezra. And great point by William here in the chat that yes, spring training is underway.
Yes, it is. And we've already seen some baseball games happening, including Mr. Shohei Ohtani in his first game for the LA Dodgers goes deep. No surprise.
Yep. And also to piggyback off what Ezra just said here in the chat, these are his 3 Hall of Fame predictions that he says it needs to happen. Bray Wyatt, Paul Heyman, and Tommy Dreamer. I 110% agree.
Yeah.
And yes, spring training is underway. And Ohtani, man, even though he won't be pitching this year, my God, he is going to be lethal batting this year. Off of that, just based off of that. If that bat shows up the entire regular season and they make it into the playoffs, watch out.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with Tommy Dreamer and Bray Wyatt, though, especially Tommy Dreamer, seeing as how WrestleMania is in Philadelphia, which was the home of the world famous ECW.
Yep.
But there's another name that they can possibly look into, and if my calculations are correct, he is actually not a Hall of Famer right now. But of course, that could always change, even though he is currently signed to AEW. How about the one and only Mr. Rob Van Dam? That could be him. That could be a possibility.
And I'm just watching this again. This is unbelievable from the other day. The the ending to the NASCAR race in Atlanta, Suarez, Blaney, and Busch. Suarez passed both Blaney and Busch to win the race in Atlanta. Unbelievable.
By 3/1000ths of a second. The third closest finish ever in NASCAR history.
Unbelievable. I mean, just rewatching that footage, that is unbelievable. Just the timing, the just thinking about it. I gotta go for it. I gotta go for it. I mean, just he thought about it and he went for it and he got it done. Unbelievable. This is a great start for NASCAR. With the Daytona 500 last week, William Byron winning the big race, that Suarez winning this week in Atlanta. Unbelievable start to the NASCAR season.
Absolutely an unbelievable start.
And I know we're going back and forth, but this is great. With all the sports that's going on, as far as the news and all the type of stuff. But just getting back to baseball, I mean, when you look at when you look at, the teams in spring training, like, the Dodgers are going to be obviously looked at for the season, and obviously the Yankees, how are they going to do this upcoming year after having one of their worst seasons last year in Major League history?
And of course, you can't forget about my Atlanta Braves.
That's right, your Atlanta Braves. Now going into
we're going to have a good season.
Yeah. Now, going into the season, Joey, how do you think Atlanta will fare this year?
I honestly don't see anybody competing with Atlanta for the NL East once again because, the Braves, they don't have that wow superstar on their roster. But at the same time, they don't need to because they have such a young team comprised of Ronald Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Max Fried. You got Travis d'Arnaud as our catcher. Michael Harris, Mr. Money Mike. You got all these young players that are signed to these long-term deals. We're not expected to lose anybody major again until, I think maybe possibly the 2027 season. So, the fact that we have such a young team of young, hardcore players who actually know how to play the game of baseball without having a true superstar on the roster, that just lets you know that the Braves are a dangerous threat to anybody.
Yeah,
and I really hope to see them go far.
At this point, you never know because baseball, just like the NFL, is an unpredictable sport.
That is true.
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, spring training is underway, and definitely the highlight for spring training so far is Shohei Ohtani's blast home run. And again, folks, we are live right now here on YouTube for another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. And I am your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. Joining me tonight is Joey Thornton. And we are having a blast here tonight, despite the technical difficulties. It happens sometimes like that, folks. And all you can do is just push forward and keep doing it live, doing it well, if you know what I'm saying. But don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Our Nation Sports Show, and where we are live on YouTube at YouTube.com/Our Nation Sports Show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video and all of our past streams with your family and friends that love the world of sports. And there's a lot going on. The college basketball men's and women's tournament is shaping up to be literal madness next month. And I tell you, Joey, one thing that keeps, hitting me, and I'm just impressed, as far as college sports goes, I am so impressed with the greatness as far as women's Caitlin Clark.
Yes, I was actually just about to say we should have brought this up last week during the show, but Caitlin Clark, yes, folks, I said that name right. Caitlin Clark is the all-time leading scorer for women in NCAA basketball history, and she is just, if my facts are correct, she is just only two high-scoring games away from becoming the all-time leading scorer among men and women in NCAA college basketball history.
Well, she's got time. She's got time to do it, and knowing her,
she definitely has time to do it.
She's destined to make history.
Yeah, the one person who she has left to beat is the one and only former LSU Tiger, Pistol Pete Maravich.
And knowing her, she's possibly going to do it, and I think she will do it.
She's going to do it.
I have a feeling in my gut that we're going to be here on the sports show talking about her greatness once again.
Yeah, whether it's in the regular season, whether it's in the conference tournament, or even the NCAA tournament, she's going to break that scoring record.
And Clark wants to avenge that loss last year. You know, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
so close to a title.
So close.
So close. They lost in the the semifinals.
But them undefeated South Carolina Gamecocks are gonna be shooting for another run at the title this year, and they are
Yes,
the
they
best
are.
team in college basketball right now.
And you know
Me and
Caitlin Clark,
Jordan.
and you know Caitlin Clark's got that fire in her veins that she wants to take down the top team in college women's basketball.
Yep.
Now, looking at the college basketball side of things, what are your biggest takeaways right now as we come down to the home stretch when it comes to as we get so close to the March Madness tournament?
Well, obviously, one of the biggest stories going on out there is the shuffle that has been happening among the top teams in college basketball over the past several weeks. Because we have seen, let me see. Let me see if I can pull up some quick stats here. We have definitely seen some top seed shuffling over the past several weeks, including, of course, our new number one now, the Houston Cougars,
Yep.
who are the top seed right now, who's the top number one overall seed right now for the first time since their 5 Slamma Jamma days back in 82, 83. But teams such as the Tar Heels, the Houston
Yep.
Cougars, the UConn Huskies, and the Purdue Boilermakers are just a few of the examples right now that have held onto that number one spot.
And UNC, real quick, one last line, a crazy game after blowing a 13-point lead. They had to hold on very tight to win that game.
And see, and you want to know something that kind of strikes odd to me about
What's
that
that?
game? Yes, the Tar Heels won, but they only had one player reach double digits. And that was RJ Davis with his monster 42-point performance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas the Miami Hurricanes, they had 4 players in double digits. Four of their starters in double digits.
And going forward in the tournament, you can't have one guy hogging the ball. You got to spread the ball around to your teammates.
Exactly.
Because in a tournament situation, it's one game. Win, you're in. You lose, you're eliminated.
Exactly.
I mean, great performance,
I
42
mean,
points. That's a great stat, but that's a great number. That's a great scoring affair. But come on.
just like the NFL, it's one and done. You go in there, you have a bad game, and you lose, you're done. You're done.
Yep. You lose one game, you're done. You're gone. Rightly so.
So, Selection Sunday is drawing ever so closer. Ever so closer. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen come March Madness time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because
you never know what upsets you're going to see this year.
you never know, because obviously last year Alabama was favored to go all the way and they didn't.
Yeah. And just like I'll never forget the very first 16/01 back in 2018.
Yep. Never forget that. And Virginia has the distinguish of being that team to be the honor. And you know they want to forget about that.
Nope.
I'll never forget that when that happened. That was literal madness. Just crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Yep, I'll never forget that either, because I was actually at a youth conference up in Pigeon Forge.
Ah, I've been there before a couple of times. It's awesome down there.
Yes, it is. It was actually just shy of, the place that we stayed at was a lodge that was actually just shy of downtown Gatlinburg.
Nice. Yeah, down there they got some cool cabins and stuff down there to stay at. Very cool spot. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens going forward in the tournament because anything and everything can and will happen. Because let's be honest, folks. I know that we love the NFL playoffs and all that type of stuff, but in my opinion, I think the March Madness tournament is the single greatest tournament in sports history.
I believe it is too.
Because we've seen Cinderella teams make it all the way to the Final Four.
So notable teams in general. How about the world famous George Mason Patriots who did it back in 2006?
That's right. They put on them dancing shoes and they took it nearly all the way.
Yep. And even though this technically isn't a Cinderella history type school, how about number 11 seeded UCLA who went all the way from the first four to the Final Four?
Yep. Countless teams have done this in some way or another. Because there's 3 guarantees, folks. Death, taxes, and brackets will be busted.
Yes.
And we look forward to the tournament starting here in a couple weeks. That'll be a lot of fun from the first 4 to the Final 4. And all the way to cutting down the nets in the championship game. And Connecticut last year obviously dominated en route to winning their championship last year against San Diego State.
Yeah, see, and if there's a team that I need to watch out for, I'm giving the prediction right now. One team that you definitely need to watch out for is the Purdue Boilermakers.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because they have one of the best players on their roster right now in Zach Edey. And I'm telling you right now, Zach Edey, he is more than likely going to be moving on to the NBA draft after this college basketball season wraps up. So this may be Purdue's last chance to win that prestigious national championship in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
At least for a while.
Yep. If they're going to make a run, they got to make it right now. So we shall see what will happen going forward, because obviously in a couple weeks we will know who the number 1 overall seeds in each bracket of the tournament and what regions they'll all be playing in. And we'll know that. And Houston's going to be there.
Oh, yeah. We know Purdue and UConn's going to be there. We know Carolina and Duke's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of Carolina and Duke, they have one more matchup.
Yes, they do.
Here at the tail end of the season.
As always, yes, they do. And if I'm not mistaken, that game is this weekend.
Let me see.
Yeah, because those games come down to nearly the last week of the regular season. Obviously, their last game was in February.
Let me see.
Yeah, that next game is coming up very soon.
No, it is not this weekend because North Carolina is playing host to NC State.
Okay. So it's got to be next week. I'm going to guess March the 9th.
Yes, it is. March 9th, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN, live from Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham.
It's going to be a crazy, crazy scene, and it's going to be a very sought-after ticket. You know those prices are going to be crazy.
Yes. You better believe them Cameron Crazies are going to be wanting some revenge after Carolina beat them on their home floor earlier this year.
Yes, they will. And who knows what'll happen. And it'll be interesting to see if Carolina and Duke, make a deep run. And will they meet each other in the college basketball tournament?
Yes, and I will say real quick, one game that I am definitely keeping an eye on this year, or an eye on this weekend actually, is a pretty big one in the SEC. As a matter of fact, College Game Day is going to be at this location because of how big this game is. As a matter of fact, let me pull it up here real quick. Let's see. Yep, at Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's going to be the number 4 Tennessee Volunteers going up against the 14th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. And the reason why this game is so important is because as of right now, the Volunteers and the Crimson Tide are tied for first in the Southeastern Conference standings.
And this is a pivotal game for both teams. More so,
Yes,
I would say for Alabama.
Yes, it is.
Because if they beat the Volunteers in this weekend in Alabama, that right there could boost their confidence going forward, and that can drop Tennessee to a lower number. Because sometimes we've seen that in college football and in college basketball, where there has been a very highly ranked team. Like, remember, I believe it was last year when Colorado made that magical run for several weeks, and then they got shown why they're one of the bottom teams in the college football rankings.
Yep, they started 3-0, but then disaster struck.
Yep, and that's the one thing I'm looking for in this game between the Volunteers and the Crimson Tide this weekend. Is if you're the Volunteers, you got to play a consistent game, and you can't play lackluster ball. You got to show up and keep playing the way you've been playing all season long. And obviously, if they beat Alabama, that right there could hurt the Crimson Tide going forward, trying to scratch a claw for a shot in the tournament. And if they get in, it's not going to be a high number if they lose.
Oh, no.
So it will be interesting to see what happens this weekend in the world of college basketball. Not just men's, but women's, because of the great Caitlin Clark. Will she break that record? We think she will. Do you? We shall see. We shall see.
Oh, let me see. Can't really think of anything else.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing too. Like, we covered a lot of ground in the last hour plus. Despite, like I said, the technical difficulties, we got through it, and all that type of stuff. But if you can't think of anything, I know I can't think of anything right now. I think I'm good for the rest of the night.
All right, so I guess, I guess we can get going a little bit early tonight. So I'll go
Nothing wrong with that.
I'll go and start with my final thoughts. Once again, it was another great show. Like you said, Steven, we were able to cover a lot of info ranging from the NBA to NFL free agency to college basketball to baseball. And we're getting ever so closer to the new football league, the UFL, starting up here in just about over a month. And we got some other great action coming up. We got, of course, March Madness. We got MLB baseball. We got a lot of stuff coming up. So for now, enjoy the sports, stay warm or stay cool, no matter where you are in the world. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And Steven, just as well as I do, you know how to close the show, my friend. So go ahead and do what you know how to do the best.
Yes, and I will take the pleasures of doing that, my friend. And yes, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to Ezra for joining us in the chat. Thank you to William for joining us here in the chat. And thank you for those that will be joining on demand to watch this, as this will be on our archives officially afterwards this is over. And another great show in the books with you, Joey. And we look forward to having Kevin on back with us here hopefully soon. And we miss our buddy. We miss his knowledge. We miss his funny takes, his great opinions. And we also missed that joke of him saying CD Lamb, not C&D ball. And before I forget, talking about, and I forgot about this real quick. This just hit me. Cam Newton got into an altercation over the weekend.
Oh, yes, he did. I totally
I
forgot about
forgot
that.
about that until now.
I
Yep.
totally forgot about that. The fact
Real
that he got
quick.
jumped, I think it was like what, two guys, and he was able to tackle them both to the ground.
Yes.
Oh
Crazy.
man, how could we forget about that?
And we were in the midst of talking about brawls and stuff, and that right there we were just all over the place with the baseball and the NASCAR and all that type of stuff. I mean, just that totally just hit me. I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. And I wanted to mention that because I read about that. I was like, that is insane.
I mean, yeah, Cam Newton may be a douche, but at the same time, he knows how to fight.
He
If
does.
he, if he was able to control both those guys that try to jump him.
I mean, that right there, I mean, whether you like him or not, you got to respect the guy for taking on two guys, like that. Just crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Oh yes, and one more thing that I wanted to mention real quick, the fact that you were talking about last night's Raw, the fact that there was one moment real quick that I saw that really just put me on the edge of my seat. And if you are as big a wrestling fan out there as I am, all I have to say is two words: pipe bomb.
Drew McIntyre.
The fact that Drew McIntyre literally sat in the ring just like CM Punk sat on that entrance ramp all those years ago and delivered a pipe bomb promo, that was just phenomenal.
Drew McIntyre has stepped up his promo game. He stepped up his social media game. I am so happy for him. The fact that he's getting a chance to main event or have a main event quality match at WrestleMania, and possibly he could be the main event for night one at Mania 40, night one against Seth Rollins for the world title. But the fact that McIntyre, after winning the WWE Championship against Brock Lesnar at Mania 36 at a warehouse with no fans, and not take it away from Drew's, championship victory, but that right there, if he's able to win this world title against Rollins at Mania night one, or I think it's got to be night one, it's got to be. If
Yeah.
he's able to do this, then I'll be happy for Drew because he gets his moment in front of the crowd. But crazy, crazy good how he's been the last several weeks. But yeah, a lot. I'm glad that that hit me with the Cam Newton story from over the weekend. Just crazy how he was able to overcome those two guys. I mean, just getting jumped from behind and then he takes him on and takes him out. Just unbelievable. But yeah, again, folks, thank you for joining us here tonight, and we look forward to having Kevin on. Like I said, with us here very soon. We miss you, buddy. We miss your funny, your funny things that you say, your jokes, and the memes that you put on here in the show,
Yeah.
and making
It's
us
funny
laugh.
one-liners.
Yeah, so those funny one-liners, your great analysis of all the sports, and obviously you being a former player. We miss you, brother, and we hope to have you on here very soon. And hope your health is going good, and we hope to see you here soon. And Ezra, hate you couldn't be here with us tonight, bro, but I know you'll be back with us next week. And yeah, looking forward to having us when we can finally get that four-headed monster and hopefully even the five-headed monster, with Randy down the line. That was great times as well. And I'm just appreciative of everybody here on the sports show and everybody in the Nation's Corner crew. And again, folks, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ON_sports show, Facebook.com/The Nation Sports Show, and where we are live on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, YouTube.com/Our Nation's Sports Show. And don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/The Nation's Corner, and on the YouTube at YouTube.com/The Nation's Corner. And don't forget to check out the Nation's Corner crew this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And stay tuned to the Twitter machine as we will keep you updated on who will be hosting the show this week. And once again, hopefully John and Deb have a great time, and Seth and all of them have a great time this weekend at the Atlantic All-Star Wrestling event, AAW. That's going to be a lot of fun. And again, we look forward to having everybody joining us back here next week. Thank you, William, for joining us here in the chat. Thank you, Ezra, for joining us in the chat. Had a great time with Joey despite the technical difficulties. Hey, it happens. You got to push through it, and we did. And we made it through another great show and covering everything NFL, NBA, baseball, college basketball, and all things good life, sports, and even a little bit of professional wrestling. So with that being said, what a great show with you guys. And we look forward to being back here next week. Same time, same channel. So with that being said, for JT, Joey Thornton, for Kevin Rory, for Randy Gyron, I have been, for Ezra Vickery, I have been your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand, and we look forward to another great show next week. Take care, everybody, and be good to one another. Peace.
Turn me up.